So the WWE returns to Canada this coming weekend. It is the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event from Montreal. And joining me now is wrestling historian, best-selling author, and Montreal and Quebec native, Pat Laprade. How are you, Pat?
Very good, very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. So before we get to talking about the actual show, I wanted to talk a little about the history. Montreal is a city very rich with pro wrestling history. But you know, as a longtime wrestling fan, I sometimes forget that there are fans that may have started just watching like maybe 5, 10 years ago and might not be aware of such history. They might not have even been born when the now infamous Montreal Screwjob happened. So if you can kind of go into some of the history of pro wrestling in the city.
My gosh, how much time do we have? Um, I mean, Montreal has been one of the hotbed of professional wrestling for a long, long time, going back to the 40s and the 50s with promoter Eddie Quinn and top wrestler Yvon Robert. Um, and then it switched to the 60s and 70s, especially the early 70s, with a big wrestling war between two organizations, pretty much like WCW and WWF back in the 1990s with Grand Prix Wrestling and All Star Wrestling. So you had the Rougeau family owning one promotion, and you had the Vachon brothers and Edouard Carpentier owning the other. So they were at war for a couple of years before All Star Wrestling ended up being the only one in town. Um, and then you have the 1980s with International Wrestling, who did good with Dino Bravo, Rick Martel, the second generation of Rougeau brothers. And yeah, up until well, you talk about it, Survivor Series 1997, Montreal Screwjob, which was pretty much I mean, at a time where pro wrestling secrets weren't really out there yet, or not as much as they are now. You had Bret Hart, who was WWF, yes, champion, and he was leaving for the opposition for WCW. Didn't want to lose the title in Montreal. His contract allowed him to make that call. And Vince McMahon told him one thing and told the others in the match another thing, in which pretty much he screwed Bret, and Bret didn't know what the outcome of the match would be. Well, the real outcome would be, and he lost the match by submission against Shawn Michaels in one of the most important matches in the history of recent pro wrestling history. So there you go. And Montreal will always be linked to that match because of the name, because of the Montreal Screwjob. But aside from that, we are known as how do you guys call it, Bizarroland or something?
Tomorrowland. That's
So
what
so
that's what the American call Canadian wrestling in general, not just Montreal.
yeah, Montreal more so, I think, because of how unpredictable the crowd can be sometimes. But yeah, I mean, there's a real rich history of Montreal wrestling. Uh, but it's very hard to recap that in just a couple of minutes. But there's a very good book actually that people can buy if they want to know more about that history, called Mad Dogs, Midgets, and Screwjobs, that I personally wrote with Bertrand Hébert. So take a look if you want to know more about that history.
Yeah, absolutely. So now the theme for this show coming up on Saturday is Elimination Chamber. Now, I'm not usually a fan of these themed pay-per-views, especially when they're promoting a single match or gimmick for this case, or in this case too. But I do like the two chamber matches this year that they don't distract from the regular other angles on the show. Do you think the Elimination Chamber should have more of an organic build though, or just because it happens to be that time of year?
Well, I mean, you have a show called Elimination Chamber. If you don't have an Elimination Chamber match, why do you title your PLE Elimination Chamber? You know, I mean, I understand the attraction behind it. Cage matches always do good, or I mean, always pique some interest. So it's another kind of cage, right? I mean, there's like Hell in a Cell, there's like regular cage match, and there's this Elimination Chamber thing, which is, I mean, I don't really mind. I mean, um, I understand the organic part of it, but at the same time, you know it's coming, and you build towards that kind of match too. I mean, it's very hard to come organically to an elimination chamber match. It's not like a regular cage match where um you build it organically because there is some interference from one stable against another, and you don't want anyone to interfere and stuff like that. I get the organic part of it, but I don't know. I just think it's very hard to come to that realization with an elimination chamber.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of difficult, especially with six participants, to kind of have these stories interconnected. So I get that at the same time. But looking at the two chamber matches, we'll start with that with those two matches for our preview. So the U.S. title will be decided in one of them. It'll be Austin Theory defending against Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, and Montez Ford. So two-part question here. Firstly, what have you thought of Theory's latest run as U.S. champion? And also, who are you favoring to win?
I like what they did with Austin Theory ever since he lost that Money in the Bank briefcase. I mean, I've known him since, you know, he wrestled on the Indies. Very good talent. Didn't think that he was gonna be that, I don't want to say that good, but that pushed in WWE. But he was, and he does very good so far. He's arrogant. He has a good gimmick. He talks well, and he wrestles even better. So really like what they did, especially like I said, you know, when Hunter took over, and you know, after that whole Money in the Bank thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who do I favor to win? It always depends, because you know it's the last PLE before WrestleMania, so it always depends. Um, eh, just 1 second, Bing. Is it only my computer who's freaking out,
I kind
or
of
it's on
noticed
your
that.
side
Yeah,
as well?
yeah, I kind of noticed that. I do apologize. I think it might be the internet connection. Yeah,
But
I can still hear you. We can still hear you.
okay, great, because the image,
Yeah, there we
you
go.
know, is like tripping right now, and I just just wanted to make sure it wasn't only on
Yeah.
my end. That's all right. So yeah, so basically, it always depends, because it's the last PLE before WrestleMania. So it always depends where you go with Austin Theory at Mania. If the rumors are true, he would be facing John Cena. Does he really need to be US champion to face John Cena? I don't think so. So
Right.
it would be the right match to make him lose the belt, because all things can happen in an elimination chamber match, and you can always find a way to protect Theory without you know, pinning him clean in the middle, you know, just, you know, one-on-one. So if that scenario is right, I would like to see a guy like Montez Ford winning the match, because
Mhm.
I don't really see the point of putting Ford in it if he's not gonna win it.
Understood.
So I don't know. I mean, there's like a lot of talks for a long time that, you know, the street profits will one day, you know, split. Montez Ford is obviously the more I don't want to say the better of, well, I'll say the better of the two, more athletic of the two, although Angelo Dawkins is very athletic as well for his size. I do see better upsides for Montez Ford as a single competitor. So, that would be a nice way to start a singles career by winning that match.
And then, of course, the other chamber match is the number one contenders match for the Raw Women's title. This will be decided between Asuka, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Natalia, Carmella, and Nikki Cross. Before speaking of the six involved, on Raw Monday night, they could have added either Becky Lynch or Bayley to this match, making it 7 competitors, but they chose not to. Was that a missed opportunity, in your opinion?
I didn't really get that actually. I mean, if you think logically here, you have Becky Lynch and Bayley against, not teaming together, but in a three-way with Bianca Belair, the champion.
Mhm.
If one of them win the match, it gives them not the opportunity to have a title match, although they would have beaten the champion, but an opportunity to be with 6 other women
Right.
in a big steel red cage. I didn't get it. I mean, it's not logic to me. Why if I beat the champion, or if I beat the champ, if I win a match involving the champion, why the prize for that would be to go in a harder match? It should be
Mhm.
a title match after that.
That's
So
a
I
good
didn't
point.
really get the logic behind it to begin with. That said, um, again, it always depends where you want to go with them. If Becky and there's a match on the way, we all see it. At some point, Lita and Becky and probably Trish against Damage Control. I really thought that it was going to be in Montreal. Doesn't look like it's going to be in Montreal, although they can always, book that last minute SmackDown Friday night in Montreal for the next evening.
Mhm.
Although it maybe would have a better value at WrestleMania because of the involvement of Lita and Trish. So if you want to do this, well, there's no point of putting Becky in or Bayley in the Elimination Chamber. It was just kind of a swerve, just to make you think that it could go there. I mean, not knowing the plans, I cannot really say it's a missed opportunity because, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, Bayley and Becky are very much still in feud. So if you only put one over there in the Elimination Chamber and not the other, what's the point of it? So I
Right.
can't really say it's a missed opportunity. And anyway, I mean, when you look at who is in the Elimination Chamber, the only name that stands out is Asuka. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see any of the other 5 going to WrestleMania against Bianca Belair.
Mhm.
So I mean, like I said, unless, I mean, there's other way of you could always have a 4-way, I guess, with Becky, Bayley, Bianca, and whoever wins the chamber. That's also a possibility. But it looks like Becky and Bayley. I don't know what the plans are for Mania. Really, I mean, nothing seems sure at this moment. So
Mhm.
I mean, I, I don't have. I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at this match and I'm not really too excited about it, to be honest.
Right. But at the same time, the uncertainty could be a good thing because it is kind of hard to predict where the roads to WrestleMania will lead for Becky and Bayley.
Yes, but they're not involved in the chamber match.
That's
So
true.
to me, there's only one winner, and it's Asuka. I
Mhm.
don't see Carmella against Bianca at Mania. I don't see any of the others
Mhm.
um, wrestling Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. So
Right.
if it's an Asuka, I mean, You can yeah, Raquel Rodriguez is in the match. Do you want to give a push to her right away, winning the chamber? Maybe, but all you did with Asuka in the past weeks would be worth nothing then. So
That's
the way they brought back Asuka with, you never know if it's Kana or Asuka and all that, leaning a little to her old indie wrestling gimmick and all that. If you did that and you don't bring this to WrestleMania and for a championship match, I think it was not worth it then. So I
true.
really think Asuka will be winning. I really don't see any other winner.
Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley will also conclude their trilogy of matches at this event, potentially.
Thank
Um,
God.
I was about to say I wasn't so impressed with the match that these two had at Crown Jewel, but this one may get more time just because of the limited matches on the card. Do you think there should be a stipulation here?
Yeah, usually we do rubber matches with a stipulation. You're right. Um, yeah, but on a show where you already have two cage matches,
Mhm.
do you want to add another stipulation to it? Maybe not. Um, yeah, I mean, what kind of stipulation you would have seen?
That's
You cannot do a cage match.
yeah,
You don't
that's
do
very true.
you don't do table matches with these two. Um, so aside from a no DQ match, which is
Mhm.
half of the matches anyways, because there's always a way to find a reason not to be disqualified.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really a matter of the way I see. I don't see Lashley winning. It's Brock wanted to have it's Brock. Well, then again, I really thought that match would be at Mania,
WrestleMania.
and seems like, I cannot believe we're gonna have another Mania match between Brock and Bobby, or that we're gonna have a fourth match, unless you do some kind of a double DQ or double count out that brings you to WrestleMania. That could be also an idea, where the two brawl outside of the ring, and maybe that's why there's no stipulation to it. So maybe that's an idea, but
Yeah.
I really hope they find a way to get this interesting. That being said, Montreal was always very kind to Brock Lesnar, so I do think that the crowd will make that match maybe a little better, because of Brock made his debut in Montreal like 21 years ago. So
That's true.
um so maybe the crowd will be a little more enthusiastic for this match than another crowd would be.
Mhm. And you brought up a good point actually, because does this feud extend to WrestleMania? And you said that you don't think it will. But having said that, where do you see Brock Lesnar on the card at WrestleMania? Like what kind of big match would they possibly have for him?
Well, the only other match would be Gunther.
Hmm.
Gunther. That's what Royal Rumble told us, right?
Right.
But if you believe everything you hear, it seems that it's not in the plans at all. So, and if it's not in the plans at all, and if Brock and Stone Cold isn't in the plans at all, because that's another thing we heard,
Hmm.
um, maybe Lashley and Brock is really the way to go. Maybe the stipulation would be at Mania.
Hmm.
Like I said, it's 1-1 in the series. You do a no contest in Montreal that brings to a stipulation at Mania. You do a double DQ with a no DQ at Mania, or a street fight at Mania or something. Yeah, I could actually see that. Maybe there's a way of salvaging this and bringing it to Mania with some kind of an interest.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, if it ends in Montreal,
Hmm.
I mean, I really don't know. Aside from Gunter, I really don't know, where you put Brock. And you need, not that you need Brock at Mania because it's already sold out, and
Exactly. Yeah.
it's not the old pay-per-view business where you need a strong main event or strong people on the show to have more buys. But at the same time, it's WrestleMania, it's LA. I mean, they're gonna book Brock, but yeah, maybe now that I think of it, maybe that's the idea, maybe that's the way to go. No contest, and you bring a stip at Mania.
Yeah, and speaking of the stipulation, I was thinking about this match particularly, and especially considering the backgrounds of the two individuals involved. I think it would be a missed opportunity to not have the fight pit brought back for this feud.
See, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, could be that because of their MMA background. Yeah, yeah, or you find some kind, it's Mania. It's bigger than anything else. You can always find, I don't know, special enforcer with an MMA legend as a special enforcer slash guest referee or something. A Randy Couture or I don't know who, but you bring back. Shamrock, I don't know, but there's maybe an MMA link to be put here if you want to add this for Mania.
Mhm. So one thing that won't extend to Mania is the match between Edge and Beth Phoenix against Judgment Day's Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. It will be interesting, though, to see how this one is booked. But with Rhea already penciled in for a championship match at WrestleMania, do you think it's a lock that her team is going over?
No, you could always make Edge pin Finn Balor. It doesn't really change anything. You can have Rhea being booked very strong in the match, having the match won for a team, and then something happened and Edge pins Finn Balor. So that could happen. But if Balor and Rhea are gonna win, I'm expecting Rhea to beat Beth Phoenix. Because I mean, between the two, Ripley is the one with the momentum. Rhea is the one that is, like you said, pencil in for a big match at WrestleMania, and not Finn Balor. So there's really no point in Finn beating Edge. So if you go with them winning, it has to be Rhea pinning an Hall of Famer, and you use that in her match, in the build of her match against Charlotte Flair. That would be logic. But I mean, I wouldn't mind having Edge winning the match against Finn in Montreal to get a big pop, and you can always use some of the footage of the match where Rhea was dominant and add the match won for a team or something like this. So.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even actually consider the fact that Edge being a Canadian, that it would likely him going over. But that's a good point.
Yeah, well, being from Toronto, how we are in Montreal. We're gonna
Some
cheer
other,
more for a French
yeah.
Canadian than just a regular Canadian,
Sure.
But still, Edge. I mean, Natalia always has a nice pop in Montreal, and Edge as well. So, and Edge is a big baby face wherever he goes. So, but in Canada, maybe they're gonna want to make. Want to go for that extra pop, maybe. Yeah.
So one rumor that I've heard lately is that Jay White, who just made his exit from New Japan, could be on his way to WWE. With he and Balor having this Bullet Club connection, do you expect him to be involved in any way here?
In Montreal?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, that would be, no, 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 no. Maybe further down the road, maybe on a Raw or a SmackDown or something. I really don't see him in. I don't know. And I believe that's too soon. I mean, and no, no, no. I mean, think about it. Sorry, I just realized he's technically booked on Battle in the Valley in San
Oh,
Jose for New
yeah,
Japan.
that's true. That's true.
That the night that Mercedes Money, Sasha Banks, is is coming back to the ring against Carey. So technically, he's already penciled there. But I mean, if he's coming and you want to do something at WrestleMania between the two of them, he's gonna be, he could be brought in later on a Raw or SmackDown. Although, I don't know if it's. I mean, it would give what, maybe a month and a half of build between the two. That could be something. Yeah, that could be a nice way to introduce Jay White. Feuding with Finn Balor, of course.
Mm-hmm. And rounding out the card is the big one for the WWE Universal Championship. It'll be Roman Reigns defending against former Bloodline member Sami Zayn. This has probably been one of the best WWE storylines in recent memory, in my opinion. Now, the interesting thing here is because Sami is the hometown hero, it could go either one of two ways. Either he wins the championship in his hometown, or he loses the championship, or he loses the title match in his hometown and gets more heat on Roman. Having said that, I think this is probably the one that may be the easiest to predict. But sometimes it's not the journey, it's the destination. So how do you expect this one to end?
It's funny because you were talking and it was like, if there could be only, I do believe that, I mean, this match could be the only match on the card. And I think that if Sami was winning it, people would go home happy. They would have seen a 35-minute pay-per-view and they would have gone on happy. That's how strong this match is. That's how behind people are. Our people are behind, Sami Zayn right now in Montreal. It's crazy. People that don't usually talk to me about wrestling are know about that. They've seen things on social media about Sami. He was invited to the Montreal Canadiens game on Tuesday on the ice doing some shooting accuracy thing, and that's amazing. It's really the weekend of Sami Zayn, and I'm really, really happy for him. My relation with him and Kevin. That being said, it's like you said, everyone believes that Roman will win. What I want to see is how and how do you end this thing, obviously the Usos won't be there, and Paul Heyman told us that last week on SmackDown because of their DUI past and not being able to enter Canada. So they won't be a factor. So it's only Roman and Solo. That's the only two. On the other side, you have Sami, and if I'm not mistaken, we haven't seen Kevin ever since Royal Rumble. So I don't know. There's something there. Is it like Roman winning with the help of Solo and then beating up Sami, and Kevin, comes back to make the save? That could be something. Is it? I mean, it's. I really hope they would have seen the potential of the match further than having the match in Montreal. Because to me, even with Cody's promo with Paul Heyman, Sami and Roman was WrestleMania material.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
But I do think they want to switch the belts, or at least one of the belts, at WrestleMania, and they just don't see Sami as a champion, as the face of the company, and they think Cody fits more that role. But yeah, I mean, this feud was about Sami beating Roman, and I don't think we're gonna get that. If one of the belts would have been in play on instead of the two of them, maybe I would have seen something like Sammy winning and then um going to WrestleMania and maybe in a three-way with Cody, having Roman, Sammy, and Cody, Sammy and Roman both having a title and Cody winning, the two of them. Maybe something like this would have, could have happened. But now that the two belts are in play,
Mhm.
I really don't see Sammy winning unless they do something where they change, because the plans are for WrestleMania to have Sammy and Kevin against the Usos. But with the Usos not being in Montreal, you cannot start building that in Montreal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tricky, you have to use Solo. But other than Roman beating Sammy because of Solo and Kevin coming back to do the save, I really don't know what else you can actually do.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, that's a fair point. Like I don't I've heard that the ban had been lifted, but that of course was only a rumor. Um yeah, it's going to be
If it was
challenging.
lifted, if it but hold on, if it was lifted, it was only for Jay. It's
Right.
impossible for Jimmy to come in Canada.
Yeah,
His last DUI is much too soon
understood.
um, for that. Although there's always all kinds of documents that you can fill, but at the end of the day, it's not a sure shot.
Mhm.
It's when you cross the border, either you get in or you don't, and it's really sometimes just a, a border patrol guy called to let you in or not, depending on all the papers that you're going to show and depending on what's on your file.
Okay.
But I do think that Jay could come, and that's why I was kind of surprised to see him back on SmackDown last Friday,
Right.
because he could have just come back at Elimination Chamber, fake the idea of being in Sammy's corner and being the one to screw him up, and that's how you go to WrestleMania with this.
Exactly.
That maybe they did the Paul Heyman promo just to swerve us as well, knowing that everybody does know about the history of them not being able to come to Canada, and Jay will show up as a surprise. But then again, the last time we saw Jay and Sammy, they were like buddy buddy. It's like I acknowledge you. And why would Jay turn on Sammy after
Right.
that?
Hmm.
So that's why I really don't think that the Usos will be there. But it's I will not say that it's not a possibility, but I really don't think it's going to happen.
Hmm. Well, Pat, again, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to check out the Elimination Chamber on Saturday, and it was a pleasure. So,
I won't forget to check it out. I will be there.
of
I will
course,
be at the Bell Center. What are you
I'm
talking
reminding I'm
about?
reminding the listeners.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, it's
enjoy
gonna
the
it's gonna be
yeah,
it's really gonna be a fun weekend for us in Montreal. I mean, Toronto, you've been spoiled over the past 10, 15 years, but Montreal hasn't gotten a PLE, a pay-per-view, in 14 years. So
right,
it's really a wrestling celebration over the weekend. There's like a superstore that has been built, that is opening today. We're Thursday, so that is opening today.
right.
And there's like the Undertaker's show tonight. There's SmackDown. There's the Elimination Chamber. So it's the biggest wrestling weekend in Montreal in 25 years. So really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Enjoy the show then, Pat. Have a great
Thanks,
one.
Wayne.
Take care.
Thanks.